If you want to understand today's riddled reality, then you have to start from the messy past itself, because without it, nothing will make sense to you. Before that, take a brief look around you. A genocide is happening as we're speaking. Thousands of children have been killed via bombs, starvation, and gunshots, plus sniping. And as Kanye once said, I can't say the name. And as always, the beacon of humanity, USA, is funding and gatekeeping this genocide from being stopped by the international authorities. Now, you may be wondering, why did I interject with this irrelevant topic at the beginning of some benign CIA secret project? Answer will be given by the end. CIA is the mafia wing of the government of the United States, the new role. It does all the dirty backdoor work of the empire. It is well funded, like the military of the country that gets the most out of the GDP of the country, USA. It surveils over public and does what its masters asks it to do. Now, by this point, if it feels too dirty and ugly of a resume, then wait until you get to learn what other Swiss stuff this institution did or does. So at the beginning, or let's say at the time when it came to relevance, was the time of the Cold War, when the idea of communism was starting to get spread around Asia by USSR, aka Soviet Union, as the agenda that they had called Communist International Revolution. They successfully infiltrated and put in place their puppet governments in huge important countries like India and surrounding regions, and in other sisterly countries beside India. And Big Bro China soon also came as an ally, because there was also a communist boom in China by the hands of Mao Zedong. So this USSR post-war expansion became a pain in the ass of the imperial US and UK elites and oligarchs. As a result, and despite them being war allies, this passive-aggressive foreign policy exchange started happening, and this slowly turned into a full-fledged passive-aggressive war, which we can call the Cold War. Governments used their resources, their intelligence to control and take over the resources of victim countries, and especially smaller regions beside their mainland. For example, United States in the Cold War era took control over Mexico and surrounding regions and countries, and Russia took control of most of the Asian countries with vast resources. And they used their cartels, their agencies. In the Russian side or USSR side, there was KGB, and in USA and London's side, there was MI6 and CIA. The creation of the CIA was significantly influenced by the British Secret Intelligence Service, also known as MI6, and the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the United States Wartime Intelligence Agency, which is. During World War II, MI6, led by Stuart Menzies, provided invaluable training and operational techniques to American operatives, laying the groundwork for the sophisticated intelligence framework. William Stephenson, the MI6 liaison in the US, worked closely with OSS head William J. Donovan, ensuring the integration of British espionage methods into American practices. The OSS under the leadership of Donovan, focused on comprehensive intelligence activities including espionage, analysis, and covert operations. Known as Wild Bill, Donovan was instrumental in shaping the vision for a permanent, centralized intelligence agency. His 1944 memorandum to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, aka FDR, advocating for such an agency was crucial in shaping the future of CIA. So basically, OSS, which was a wartime intelligence agency of the USA, and its predecessor, MI6, which was the British half of the CIA, basically came together and gave birth to the CIA that we know today. And it was objectified, and it was created during FDR. The National Security Act of 1947, signed by President Henry S. Truman, officially established the CIA, centralizing intelligence collection and analysis under the leadership of the first Director of Central Intelligence, Ross H. Hallicotter. The new agency retained many OSS veterans, ensuring continually to expedite an operational culture. Additionally, the CIA maintained close collaboration with MI6, fostering ongoing Anglo-American intelligence cooperation, which I basically discussed before, which was conquering and taking control over lands and resources of North America, Mexico, and other countries. So that's the thing that they were doing. The synthesis of British and American wartime intelligence efforts provided the CIA with a robust foundation, ensuring its effectiveness as the United States Central Intelligence Agency in the post-war era. Since its creation, it worked relentlessly for the fostering of the terrorist state, which is USA, the world got-tailed. One of the first covert operations conducted by the CIA was Operation Ajax, which took place in 1953. This operation aimed to overthrow the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, and reinstall the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, to power. Operation Ajax and its key details. Context: nationalization of oil was one of the first motives of this operation. In 1951, Prime Minister Mossadegh nationalized the Iranian oil industry, which had been controlled by British-owned Anglo-Iranian Oil Company AIOC. This move was seen as a direct threat to Western economic interests. The second point was Cold War tensions. Aimed the Cold War, and the United States and the United Kingdom feared that Mossadegh policies might align Iran more closely with Soviet Union. So again, we see the Cold War effect. Then we come to the CIA's role in this operation. So first, the authorization. The operation was authorized by US President Howard. The CIA's Director of Plans, Alan Dulles, played a key role in orchestrating the operation. The execution of this operation was led by Kermit Roosevelt Jr., a senior officer of the CIA, led this operation in the grounds of Iran. The plan involved propaganda. They also bribed different institutions and orchestration of protests and demonstrations against Mossadegh. Tactics. The tactics that they used are very much of the books. Firstly, they used propaganda. CIA kind of dismantled and promoted the anti-Mossadegh propaganda to turn public opinion against the Prime Minister. Then they bribed and influenced Iranian military officials and politicians to turn against him. And this was it. And as a result, the operation became successful, and Mossadegh was overthrown in 1953. The Shah was reinstated with increased powers, becoming a key ally to the United States in the region. And I must say, as the interpreter of this text, this was taken from an AI site, which basically shows the biases of the AIs that we have today. It's stating as an ally of the United States, as they're saying, the puppet government of Shah was an ally for USA, which is not a good thing, because the process itself was a corrupt one. So from the beginning, we see this focus on Middle East as a part of the bigger plan, the creation of Zion for their ultimate master, all the intel that they gathered, all the information of billions of people will be used and given their ultimate master, who will come from the Middle East. It all makes sense why there is this unhealthy level of obsession in the USS part to the Middle East. That's the reason we see so much abnormal focus on the Middle East. And we have left a little part of the previous discussion that we were having about the effects of that AZAX operation that USA, aka CIA, led in Iran, which actually overthrew the Mossadegh government. And later, as the people of Iran became more radicalized, they, did a revolution, and now we see a very, very radical Islamic Iran. Some people say that the current extremist government of Iran is also a CIA puppet, which has many logics in it, but that's another discussion. So the point of stating this all is, why is there so much focus in the Middle East if there is no long-term plan for it? It makes sense if you want money and resources from the region, then why do we need to foster that tiny piece of land so much? Why is there a particular focus on a group of people that came from Europe to the Middle East and now are kind of, ruling the world? So both the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, and the British intelligence agency, MI6, engaged in numerous covert and often illegal activities during their operational periods, particularly during Old World War II. Here are some major illegal acts committed by the constituent agencies. OSS, first of all, they did Operation Hayland. The Operation Hollyard. The OSS facilitated the largest rescue of downed Allies airmen in Yugoslavia. While the rescue itself was a heroic act, it involved illegal entry into a sovereign country and covert operations without the country's consent, which, in modern terms, is a war crime. Operation Sunrise. The operation involved secret negotiations with high-ranking Nazi officials in Italy to arrange a surrender to the Allies, bypassing the Soviet Union and potentially violating Allied agreements on wartime conduct and communication. So, on a brief note, I would like to say it's like an open secret at this point that Nazi scientists were brought in USA, and some of them were brought in USSR, who later gave birth to the space age that we see. So it's all Nazi technology that we see in rockets and stuff. I mean, I know it's an odd fact, but it's true. Then assassination attempts done by the OSS. The OSS planned and executed various, people from different backgrounds, and attempt to kill many high-ranked officials. Sabotage and guerrilla warfare. The OSS engaged in numerous acts of sabotage and guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines. Who the enemy is, please people guess. Then we have MI6, Operation Anthropoid. MI6 supported the assassination of Reichland Heinrich, a high-ranking Nazi official in Prague. This assassination was a direct violation of wartime conduct and led to brutal reprisal by Nazis. Operation Mincemeat. MI6 devised a deceptive operation to mislead the Nazis about the Allied invasion plans. While highly successful, it involved the use dead body for deception, which raised its ethical and legal questions. And it goes on and on. And remember, these are all stuff that we know of. It's like, like tip of the iceberg type of stuff. So there's a lot that we don't know, and we could just speculate that these agencies that do not give a fuck about any rule, just imagine to which extent they would go to foster their agendas. Now let's come back to the MK Ultra stuff. Let's see what the normie media says about OSS and MI6 doing similar type of crimes. First of all, OSS. After World War II, the OSS and later CIA conducted Operation Paperclip, which involved recruiting former Nazi scientists and intelligence officers to work for the United States. Many of these scientists had been involved in war crimes, including human experimentation. By bringing them to the USA and utilizing their expertise, the OSS essentially absolved them of their war crimes and allowed them to escape justice. These scientists contributed to the various US projects, some of which involved ethically dubious research and experimentation. The operation was justified by the urgent need to advance American scientific and military capabilities during early Cold War period. Then we have another barren, hideous, disgusting, this whole MK Ultra stuff, and I'm gonna cite some confessions from the victims of the MK Ultra project, which is gonna make this whole mess a bit more clear to you. So, the international mafia, and the names of them start with J. And you have to guess. This group is so powerful that they control 90% of the US Senate. It controls the European Union. It controls literally every single country, which was from the beginning a CIA's motive of absolving every single independent country in the world. So whenever they took any radical decision, there would be no force from anyone, which I think they have been successful. There is no free government in today's day and age, at least in my estimation. So let's get into some interesting stuff. President John F. Kennedy made a notable speech in April 27, 1961, to the American Newspaper Publishers Association, NPA, where he addressed the issues of secrecy and the role of the press in preserving democracy. One of the key parts of this speech, often cited in discussions about secret societies, is as follows. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, as we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwanted concealment of retained facts far overweight the dangers which are cited to justify it. So clearly, they don't work for the USA because CIA killed John F. Kennedy. Why? You should ask them. So it proves that it is not for the government. There is a third party. There is a Hegelian synthesis between the people, the government, and the controller. People perceive as a part of, let's say, just imagine this scenario where you have one side which symbolizes the government. Then we have another side which symbolizes the people. The people's side says or believes that the other side, the government, is ruling them and oppressing them. And if you take a deep look in government, you're going to find a lot of decent people. You're going to find a lot of helpless, good people. And you're going to find some corrupt people. And, after a deep analysis, you're not going to be able to put a label solely on the government that they're evil. Then you're going to have these establishment guys. They're going to say, see, you guys are just spewing conspiracies. There is no hidden government. But then you have to look at these covert killings and operations and money laundering that CIA does. CIA is to grow opium in Mexico, in Afghanistan, and they is to export drugs. For what reason? Now this discussion is going to get more interesting. If you know about Aldous Huxley and his book, The Brave New World, he is a part of the CIA. Many people do not know that. People think that he's some fucking freedom fighter like George Orwell, which he is not. He kind of laid down a model of control that the government can use. In the novel Brave New World, we see this highly technological, civilization where people are devoid of emotions, social norms, which we are, essentially becoming very rapidly. We're leaving our, generational virtues in the name of modernism. And a key part in that novel is the part of soma, which is a euphoric drug that helps you forget anything bad, which is basically drugs in real life. So CIA grows a lot of drugs, and the main reason I'm making a video on MKUltra is to show how drug is crucial in the takeover of the world. In this project MKUltra, they basically tried to drug people, not just drug, physically torture them to the point to which they're going to be totally controllable, or at least they hoped so. They erased people's memories. We were going to read some shocking testimonies from people, which is going to make it more apparent what their motive is. But they're just, in my understanding, it's like a cult. You look at these end-time prophecies in different religious books, and you wonder how were they so accurate. Now, you can say that all the not actually fairy tales, all the future tellings and predictions and prophecies are actually coming into fruition. But then you get this logical barrier in that narrative as to if people really knew that these are doomsday prophecies. For example, if people already knew that 666 or like badging people, these QR code technologies and overindulgement in drugs and women, Also, all these already known bad stuff. If people knew that, then why are people doing that? Why are they getting promoted? The reason is because there is a conscious effort from a group of people who want to destroy the current world in order for their new republic to arise. That's their end goal. They want the end of the world, and they believe world isn't actually going to end. We are going to die. We're going to go extinct, the normal people, and they're going to have their utopia. So they are giving us what we asked for, or what's written in the books, as like a mockery. So that's the thing. Okay, so now let's read some confessions from CIA MKUltra victims. The first person is Cameron Armiston. The age was only early teens when he was subjected to this torture. He was given electric shock. Armiston was subjected to electric shock therapy multiple times, which involved high voltage shocks administered to his brain. The process was incredibly painful and disorienting, leaving him unable to remember personal details, including his fucking name. LSD administration. He was given high doses of LSD as well, a powerful hallucinogen, which led him to kind of tweak for half. Actually tweet, sorry. This was done without his consent and often in combination with other forms of torture. And here is the confession. I was just a kid. They would strap me down and shock me until I couldn't remember my own name. The drugs they gave me made me hallucinate and lose my touch with reality. It was like living in a nightmare. Armiston was a patient at the Allen Memorial Institution in Montreal under the care of Dr. Erwin Cameron, whose experiments aimed to erase memories and reprogram the mind. Then we have Linda McDonald, who was only 25 when she was forced into this project. First, McDonald was kept in a drug-induced coma for 80 fucking days. This involved heavy sedation with drugs to keep her unconscious. Then she underwent through 102 sessions of electric shocks, far exceeding the normal therapeutic range. This led to severe memory loss and cognitive impairment, sensory isolation, and while in coma, she was exposed to repetitive recorded messaging played through the speakers, aimed to reprogram her mind. As a side note, I'll say, I heard the story of a person who was in MKUltra, and then he was played a sound that said, "I'm a bird, I'm a bird, I'm a bird." And he became crazy and he started believing that he was a bird. And when he was released in a rooftop, he fucking started chirping like a bird, and he flew off not actually flew off, he fell off the rooftop and died. I was given 102 ECTs, which is electric shock sessions, and kept in drug-induced sleep for 86 days. They destroyed my memory. I had to relearn to read, write, and recognize my family. McDonald's testament was a part for Dr. Cameron's. This term is very painful. Depattering experiments at the Allen Memorial Institute intended to wipe out behaviors of one, past behaviors. Then we have Val Orligo, who was in his 30s. Uh, Orligo was administered LSD and other psychoactive drugs without her consent, causing severe mental distress and altered state of consciousness. She was subjected to psychedelic driving, which was forced to listen to recorded messages repeatedly for extensive periods, often lasting weeks or months. She received numerous sessions of ECTs, aka electric shocks, which was given to her, and her memory was, harmed. They gave me LSD and other drugs, made me listen to repetitive recorded messages for hours on end. I felt like I was losing my mind. Orligo was a patient at the Allen Memorial Institute, undergoing Dr. Gamarra's experiment. Treatments. Her husband, David Orglow, later became an advocate for the victims. Paul Robinson Jr., he was in his early 20s. Paul Robinson, the famous actor and civil rights activist, was reportedly given LSD without his knowledge, leading to severe psychological breakdowns. He was subjected to psychological torture intended to destabilize his mental health and undermine his activism. So he was basically stopped, he was controlled, he was capped. They tried to break him with drugs and psychological torture. They wanted to make an example out of him because of his activism and outspokenness. Robinson's mental health deteriorated significantly after what his family believed were covert attempts by the CIA to control or neutralize him through MKUltra tactics. Then we have Candy Jones, who was also in her or his 20s or 30s. Jones was subjected to intensive mind control techniques, including hypnosis, drugging, and psychological conditioning to create a split personality. Under hypnosis, she was trained to switch to an alternative personality that could carry out missions without her permanently personal awareness. So, this is the key point. They wanted to make perfect spies. They wanted to make perfect agents. They trained me to switch personalities so I could carry out missions without knowing. They used drugs, hypnosis, and psychological conditioning to create a split personality. Jones detailed her experiences in a book, The Control of Candy Jones, revealing how the CIA used her as a covert operative under the influence of MKUltra's mind control tactics. So, she was a successful experiment, so CIA knows how to create a good bitch. And on a serious, also funny note, many billionaires you see have long-lasting relationships, which is an anomaly. And many celebrities have kind of, a few days ago there came an interview of Cat Williams in the Clive Shay show. And there he told about these controlled people having a weird-faced, white-looking wife who never gave any interview to any journalist, who just stayed behind them. The reason for that is those wives of different celebrities are not normal people. They're living in a split personality. They can switch it. Many celebrities are also living in split personalities. And the reason for that is basically this experiment. Then we have Frank Olson. Olson, a CIA scientist, was given LSD without his knowledge during They Don't Spare Their Own a retreat, causing severe psychological distress. And Olson fell or was punished from a hotel window. He was pushed from a hotel window in New York under circumstances that suggested foul play. My father was dosed with LSD without his knowledge and thrown into a state of confusion. He was pushed or fell from a hotel window in New York. Frank Olson's death was initially ruled a suicide, but subsequent investigations indicated it might have been a covert for his involvement in subjects of MKUltra. So they were basically erasing any proof of this happening. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? And later, as the step of implementation, MKUltra, they realized that the mind control thing is much easier than it seems. So they replaced these LSD and stuff with the mobiles at our hand, and we are also getting drugged 24/7, internal drug, dopamine and other hormones. They are also stimulating us 24/7, creating and making us sadistic, making us brave new world soldiers, kind of numb, useless populace. That's the mission. And my mission is to let people know about this truth. So spread the message, share it, and perhaps we can connect person to person. Thanks for watching.